In this video, I'm going to be doing a comparison between the Japanese Pokemon TCG cards versus the English Pokemon TCG cards. Two biggest markets of Pokemon TCG. I know Pokemon TCG exists in dozens of different languages. I've seen Chinese cards, German cards, French cards, Italian, Thai, and various other languages of Pokemon TCG that the cards have been translated into. But I think the main differences exist in the Japanese versus the English one, whereas then the English one gets translated into multiple different languages, or it's considered the international version where that card could contain different languages depending on the region you buy it from. Like even here in Canada, you could find cards that are English or French, which is because we have two official languages, English and French, so the Pokemon cards could be found in either of those languages, or cards that are imported from Japan are the Japanese Pokemon TCG cards, which is becoming a very big market, and I'm seeing it a lot more often among collectors and in trade shows. So I wanted to do a video comparing the two. So in this video, I'm going to do a deep dive of the Japanese cards that I own, including the ones that I have in the English version as well, just to show you guys a side-by-side comparison of the two cards. This will help you identify what differences exist between the two cards and show you guys that there aren't a lot of differences, but the different quality and the different textures of the cards might lean you towards one or the other, which is what is happening with a lot of collectors. The Japanese versions of cards are a bit cheaper compared to the English version of cards, just because of their availability and their cheaper base price, especially currently where product in the English version is hard to find. The Japanese version is a little easier to find, even though you have to import it from Japan or get it from a third-party source. That's just because there are guaranteed hits in Japanese booster boxes versus English ones, so the seeding is a little different, and thus the pull rates are a little bit better. The quality control of Japanese cards on average is a lot better, especially the alignment and the cut of the cards, and also just the general condition of the cards when you pull them out of the packs. Let's do a deeper dive into it. So to start with, let's go back to the very beginning with vintage cards. So I had a couple of these vintage cards in my collection with the Japanese counterpart. So let's do a comparison between the two. First thing we'll notice is with this Sparrow from Jungle, the back of the cards is a lot different. So you guys will see that originally Japanese cards had this different backing on it. They had the Pocket Monster card game font on it, versus the English cards that have always been the same backing. In addition to that, the yellow border is a lot slimmer on the Japanese cards versus the English cards. Other than that, it's very similar. The design of the card, maybe the actual print quality is a little bit better because the ink is a lot darker on the Japanese version. The framing and sizing is almost the same, except with the weaknesses and the description of it. You guys will see like the box is a bit different, and it's not just exclusive to the Sparrow. So I also have another an Oddish from Jungle in both Japanese and English, and you guys will see the same case applies with the framing and font of them, and also the borders. The ink is a lot darker on the Japanese version. And overall the quality has been preserved a lot nicer versus the two. I mean, obviously you could get them in better condition. I just had these available, so I wanted to show you guys. Here the condition isn't as important as the actual design of them. The key takeaway is the back design of the Japanese cards were different once upon a time in the vintage version, and this changed after 2001 where they went to the new design. Now let's go into some modern era cards because that's what I have in both languages. So the next card I want to showcase to you guys is this Charizard from Pokemon Go in both languages. So you guys will see this is probably the one that has the most difference between the two, and the eye-catching feature is the texture. The Japanese version is so much nicer in my opinion compared to the English texture. I mean, they are both very nice cards, but the Japanese one really stands out. So here at the back of the card, you guys will notice that this is the standard Japanese design that you guys have seen on all modern era cards, except for the vintage era pre-2001. One other thing you guys will notice is the yellow borders. So post 2006, the Japanese version switched to these gray borders. Originally it was the yellow borders like you guys saw in the vintage cards, but after 2006 the Japanese cards have been featuring this gray border on all their cards, or all their regular non-full art cards. Whereas the English one, up until Scarlet and Violet, has been featuring the yellow borders, which a lot of people dislike just because of the Japanese alternative. Just because the Japanese version has the gray borders, they found that that one's a nicer version of the card, and that's why I guess Pokemon switched to the gray borders going forward. But in my opinion, the Japanese version is superior compared to the English version, just because of the texture. It's a lot nicer to look at. I mean, the English version does have a bit of a texture, but I don't know. It's just that in comparison, the Japanese one wins. Alright, so next let's move on to our favorite set, Pokemon 151, which features all the base 151 Pokemon. Here, the Japanese version actually did something a little different, specifically with the reverses. So in the Japanese 151 set, they actually feature Pokeball reverses instead of the normal reverses, and they also have the Master Balls. But the Japanese Pokeball or Master Ball version is a little different. Their reverses are similar to what we've seen in Black Bolt and White Flare, with the Pokeballs or Master Balls all throughout the reverse of the card, whereas in Prismatic it's just a big giant Pokeball or Master Ball in the middle of the card where the text is featured. The hollow foil on the normal cards is a lot stronger on the Japanese ones, like it's a lot shinier. I don't know if how well it's going to be captured on camera, but the hollow foil is a lot nicer. One other thing I'd like to point out is the centering. If you guys pay attention to the centering of the cards, on average the Japanese cards are centered very well compared to the English ones, which have a very bad design in terms of centering. 50% of the time they will be off-centered, and if not worse, and that's the biggest nitpick that people have with the English quality control. Yeah, otherwise the common and uncommon cards are very similar, or like their reverses and rares. Just I want to point out this one because I had these cards available, that the reverse hollow foil on the 151 Japanese is the Pokeball version, which would have been cool to have in the English alternative, just to spice up the set a little bit more. So now I'm going to be showcasing 6 different illustration rares or art rares in the Japanese and English version, starting off with this Tangela. So back to 151, but this Tangela, you guys will see, I have it in both versions, and again, centering is it's a bit more noticeable. The centering is a bit better in the Japanese version compared to the English version. The hollow foil is, I think, a little stronger on the Japanese version. I think on average the ink on Japanese cards are a lot stronger or darker compared to English alternatives. But with this Tangela, there's not much of a texture, so overall they look very similar. With the darker ink, the Tangela looks a little bit better in Japanese, but it's very slightly, and it's very slight and it's not really noticeable. Another card we could showcase is this Machoke from 151 again. So I have it in both Japanese and English, and in my opinion it looks very similar. Same situation with this one. Although the centering on the English version is not too bad, it's a little bit better in the Japanese one. The ink is a bit darker in Japanese. The hollow foil, as a result, the hollow foil is a little stronger, or there's a lot more contrast when it hits the light because of the darker ink. But overall it looks similar. I'll let you guys be the judge, but for me, they look almost exactly the same, except that it's a bit darker in the Japanese version. Here I have the Noibat from Journey Together. So in this case, I think the English version is a little bit nicer. Maybe it's just me, but the way the light is catching it, the English version actually does a better job with this Noibat. And maybe it's because the actual art of the Noibat's a bit darker. So with Japanese cards being a bit darker, it doesn't shine as much, but the English ink is a bit nicer in this case. So again, it is very situational. If you do have darker ink with darker artwork, it's not going to shine as much versus the English one, which has a bit more contrast with the darker. You guys be the judge. I don't know. In this case, I would probably give the English Noibat the upper hand in this one, but it's very similar. So next we have the Wailord from Journey Together. So in this case, it's about the same again. Like there's not a big difference between the two. In modern IRs, it's pretty similar. Again, maybe a bit darker in the Japanese one, but that's just the way the ink works there. Centering is good on both of the cards, and overall the quality is pretty similar. So let's move on to the final card of the showcase, which is the Spearow from Mega Evolution. So here, this is like the latest set that I have available, and honestly it's very similar. Again, a bit darker in the Japanese version, especially in the background. You guys will see there's a lot more contrast between the foreground and background and the ink. Again, here the centering, you guys will notice that this is just an average card that I had, and the centering on the English version again is poor. On average, the Japanese centering is a lot better. From all the cards that I have showcased, the Japanese versions didn't have a single card that was off center versus the English ones, which multiple cards were a bit off center, and in this case a little bit worse. worse than that, it's very noticeable. And this is the same case with the reverse of the card. If the front is off-centered, oftentimes the back is also off-centered, so that creates a lot of problems when you're trying to grade a card. So another reason why Japanese cards are cheaper than English cards is because of the quality control, and this leads on to the grading. So when the quality of the card is better, it will get higher grade, and oftentimes the population of PSA 10s in Japanese is a lot higher than the PSA 9s or lower, versus the English ones where they're a bit more similar, so there's less population or less supply of PSA 10s compared to other ones, so it becomes more rare and harder to find, thus people could charge more money for it. Japanese cards on average are easier to score a 10 in because of the higher quality, and thus with more supply the prices will be lower. So before I wrap it up, I want to show you guys what an SAR, which is secret art rare, or an SIR, secret illustration rare, looks like in Japanese, and looks amazing. Unfortunately, I don't have the identical version in English, or I could have showed you the side-by-side comparison, but this is the Zamazenta from Crown Zenith, or the Japanese version. I'm not sure exactly how the sets are named, but this in English, you'll find it in Crown Zenith. The Japanese version, let me tell you, it looks amazing. Like the texture and the shine on it is very nice. The SARs, I mean, this one, the texture is very subtle on it, but you guys could see like there is a lot of texturing when you guys look close. The black borders and on the bottom and on the top corner are shiny, whereas the gray borders have the texture. And overall, it just looks amazing compared to the English one. I have seen the English one before. Unfortunately, I had a copy and I sent it off to grading, so until I get that back, I can't do a comparison. But through my opinion and from what I remember, this card looks a lot nicer than the English version, and I wish the English versions had the same quality as the Japanese cards. Alright, so that was like a high level overview of Japanese Pokemon TCG cards versus English Pokemon TCG cards, mainly focusing on the design differences, but you guys will see there's not a lot of differences between the two, which is why a lot of people are leaning more towards Japanese cards, and I'm seeing it in real time. A lot of people are more interested in Japanese art rares and SARs, or secret art rares, because of the cheaper price and the better print quality. It looks nice in the binder, and if you have like a page full of Japanese cards, it doesn't look out of place. One issue people have is they don't want to mix their English and Japanese cards, which sometimes it just stands out too much like a sore thumb. So when you have a page full of Japanese cards, that looks perfect. So I think it has already started, and we're going to see more of a shift going into the new year of Japanese cards, especially because the Japanese cards release a lot earlier and people love getting the products on hand as soon as possible. The products on average are a bit cheaper to get, and it's becoming a lot more accessible for people to buy Japanese cards. I'm seeing a lot more vendors and card shops selling Japanese booster boxes or packs, and it's just becoming a lot more common. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys have anything to add, comment them down below. As always, if you guys like this video, please drop a like, subscribe, and share this video if you guys found it useful. And thank you guys for watching.